Hello, viewers. I'm Mia, and today you're listening to the podcast, How Does Stress Affect the Body? Now, let's get straight into it. Here with us today is a very special guest, my dear friend, Meredith Salter. How are you, Meredith?
I'm doing so good today. How are you, Mia?
I'm pretty good. So, Meredith, as a fellow student athlete, I'm sure there's one thing we have in common above all else. We are constantly stressed out. Wouldn't you agree?
I totally agree. I have 3 sports in my school year, and every day it's just go to school, wake up early, go to practice, go to team dinners or games or meets or whatever, and then come home and you just have to get that homework done because there's just so much you have to do.
No, literally, and then you get no sleep because you get home late and then you're up doing the homework, and then the next day you're tired so you don't get as much done. It's just, it's such a bad process. And I'm so used to feeling stressed out that it feels like a completely normal feeling. And while it technically is normal, the amount of constant stress that we feel isn't normal. Because stress is actually derived from the natural fight or flight response, except now, in modern times, it's like the switch is constantly turned on. And it's not supposed to be, because fight or flight is really only designed for life or death situations. So it's causing the body to treat stress about smaller things like work and upcoming exam as if it were an actual life or death situation.
That's actually crazy because I constantly feel insanely stressed, and my body, it takes a toll on me every day because I just feel it so much. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and there's actually a ton of different ways that stress can harm the body, but before we get into that, we're first going to invite a few more guests on the show and ask them some questions to get more of an idea of how expansive this issue of stress really is. We'll get right into those interviews right after this short ad. Is your bodily stress and pain causing you mental stress? Do you not know how to fix those everyday aches? Well, there's a solution. Ann Cassette of Physical Therapy is here to help. Just call 301-880-9000 or email at anncassettapt@outlook.com. That's ANNCASSETTAPT@outlook.com. Hello, welcome back. On to the interviews. So first off, we have Mr. Pike, who is an English teacher at Leonardtown High School. So Mr. Pike, on a scale of 1 to 10, how stressed do you believe you feel on a daily basis?
I would say probably an 8 or a 9.
All right. Does stress ever inhibit or impact your ability to do your everyday tasks like working? How so?
Yeah, I'd say that stress makes being productive at work difficult. For example, if you're feeling stressed out, it's difficult to prioritize tasks and do the most important stuff. And then what you end up doing is procrastinating through doing the less important tasks. Yeah. So you feel like you have so much that you need to get done that you do less stressful, unimportant work instead of the big things that you need to do.
Yeah, I get that. And when you're stressed out, do you feel that you get less sleep or less quality of sleep? And are there any other physical or mental effects that you feel from stress?
Yeah, I would say that when I'm going through a stressful period at work, let's say, if I look at my fitness app, I will see that in stressful periods I'm getting between 5 to 6 hours of sleep. And if it's a less stressful time, I'm averaging 6.5 to 7.5. Mm-hmm. And then the other things I notice when I'm stressed out, other physical symptoms like headaches, muscle twitching a little bit, around the eye, or emotional things like irritability.
Yeah. And lastly, do you have any healthy ways that you cope with your stress? And if so, what are they?
The ways that I try to manage stress, because teaching, a lot of the stressors that I deal with are during the school year, because teaching is we are assigned a 35-hour job, but in reality, it can be anywhere from, I'd say, 50 to 65 hours a week. Mm-hmm. And when you deal with stress like that, the best way to manage it, I found for me, is to do things like trying to incorporate physical activity and regular exercise, and then also meditation is helpful for stress, because what I do, I've been practicing Zazen, which is a type of Buddhist meditation, since college. And when you practice a mindfulness exercise like Zen, what it does is it allows you, like in a stressful moment, to sort of ground yourself and sort of depersonalize your stress and sort of recognize that like who you are is not the stressful feelings and emotions and stressors that you're going through in a given moment. And it allows you, like, in a given instance where you're dealing with some of those negative aspects of stress, like I talked about before, it lets you control your emotions and reactions so you don't make things worse.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much. So now we have Renella Villanosa, a 16-year-old student at Leonardtown High School. So Renell, on a scale of 1 to 10, how stressed do you believe you feel on a daily basis?
I'd say a 7. If we're talking about balancing all aspects, including social life, mental health, and school, I'm very stressed.
All right. And does stress ever impact or inhibit your ability to do your everyday tasks, such as working? How so?
Stress plays a big factor in components like school and definitely mental health because of how much I worry about things, because stress correlates with anxiety, and I have a lot of anxiety, and it ends up inhibiting a lot of things because it makes me it makes me not want to do things, and it just puts so much pressure on me to not do things, and it makes it very difficult for me to do things. And as much as I'm stressing how difficult it is to do things, it does put a big weight on me, so it's very hard, and stress is just a really bad thing for me.
Yeah. So when you are stressed out, do you feel like you get less sleep or less quality of sleep? And are there any other physical or mental effects that you feel from stress?
With or without stress, I feel like I definitely don't get sleep. But stress definitely is a big factor when it comes to my sleep, because when I worry about things, it tends to keep me up, and therefore my sleep just deteriorates because of that.
Gotcha. And if I remember correctly, you've also had asthma attacks because of stress, right?
Yes, I have, and that is a big factor in inhibiting me to do schoolwork, and has been a very big risk and factor to me to inhibiting everyday life for me.
Yeah. Does like what did the doctor say? Like, did they tell you it's because of stress, or did you just know, like, this is happening because I'm so stressed out?
I can tell whenever I'm very stressed, I start, like, seeing signs of it, and it's a repetitive emotion where when I feel stress, I know that there's going to be an asthma attack coming. It's like a symptom of impending doom, if I could say so.
Oh, gotcha. And lastly, do you have any healthy ways that you cope with stress? And if so, what are they?
Well, I don't know if I have many healthy ways of coping with it besides sleeping, which is not the best way to cope with it and not really a healthy way, but it is a way of coping with it. But besides that, just doing any everyday activity that's do with, like, just calming senses, like playing music or playing games or doing whatever to, like, help calm the nerves and senses.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much, Renell.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Anna Heck, who is a 16-year-old student at Leonardtown High School. So Anna, on a scale of 1 to 10, how stressed do you believe that you feel on a daily basis?
I think that every day I'm about at like a 5 or 6 constantly.
Does stress ever impact or inhibit your ability to do your everyday tasks, such as working? How so?
I feel like my stress causes me to procrastinate quite a lot, and also I end up having a harder time focusing, and my lack of sleep makes it hard to focus as well when I'm tired.
When you're stressed out, do you feel that you get less sleep or less quality of sleep? And are there any other physical or mental effects that you feel from stress?
I get significantly less sleep than I should, maybe about 3 hours a night. And yeah, I can definitely feel that it slows my brain function a little.
Yeah, I feel that. And so, lastly, do you have any healthy ways that you cope with stress? And if so, what are they?
I do journal sometimes, as well as doing a lot of drawing and art to distract myself and calm myself down.
So, you're an artist, right? Do you ever cope with your things like stress, like through your art? Like, does that help you? Or, like, does it ever, like, make it worse? Like,
Sometimes I do like to put my emotions into my art rather than just drawing. But for the most part, just drawing anything in general helps calm me down.
okay. So, like, when you're stressed out, does it affect, like, what you draw?
Not really. I do tend to gravitate towards happier things to make myself feel better, but in general, not really.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much. And last up, we have Ann Cassetta, a mother and physical therapist. So, Mom, on a scale of 1 to 10, how stressed do you believe you feel on a daily basis?
2.
All right. Does stress ever impact or inhibit your ability to do your everyday tasks, such as working? How so?
No, it just makes me do more things because I have too much to do.
When you're stressed out, do you feel that you get less sleep or less quality of sleep? And are there any other physical or mental effects that you feel from stress?
Yes, you get less sleep because there's insomnia, irritability, headaches, so I get less sleep when I'm stressed out.
All right. And lastly, do you have healthy ways that you cope with your stress? If so, what are they?
Absolutely, the best way to do it is exercise. I exercise 1 to 2 hours a day, and that's the best way to maintain my level of stress and manage it.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so as we can clearly tell, stress affects people of all ages and genders, both on a mental and physical level. But what exactly are those effects? Well, firstly, it can make you more susceptible to things such as weight gain and disease. It lowers the immune system and lowers the quality of sleep. And as we can see through Renell's experiences, it can also lead to things such as asthma attacks, heart attacks, and stroke.
Okay, so stress causes a lot more serious issues than I thought, but why does it cause all those things?
Well, a lot of it is because of a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is essentially the main stress hormone. As I mentioned earlier with flight or fight, stress is meant to be short term and originally meant to help us do things like run and fight for our lives. Now, this also means that cortisol is meant to be short term, not long term. However, in modern times, everyone is constantly releasing cortisol because we're all constantly so stressed out, whether it's because of school, work, social issues, etc. And all of this cortisol is so harmful to the body. For example, more release of cortisol affects the repair of telomeres in the brain. This in turn can cause age-related diseases like heart disease, anemia, and cancer. It doesn't just end there. Too much cortisol also weakens electrical signals in the hippocampus, which as a result harms learning, memory, and stress control abilities.
Wait, that doesn't really make sense. If stress was intended to keep us alive, why is it so bad for us?
Well, it's not necessarily bad for us, so to say. When it comes sporadically and the stress doesn't last for a very long time, it can be helpful. It tenses up your muscles, increases your heart and breathing rate, and increases your blood pressure. This can help you in the moment if you're in a life or death or a high-risk situation. It just gets super bad for both your physical and mental health when it's long-term.
Okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but it's how things go, I suppose. And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, Mia, if constant long-term stress is so bad for you, what should I do to prevent it? Well, put simply, there's nothing you can do to completely prevent stress. No matter what, you're going to feel stress during parts of your life, whether it's big or small. Learn from my own as well as others' experiences. To help prevent stress, you can do daily practices of activities like yoga or meditation that help relax the mind and body and that also help practice mindfulness in difficult situations. Having this daily routine you can always fall back on no matter what helps to provide a sense of comfort during both stressful and non-stressful times. And when you do experience inevitable stress, there's many different things you can do to cope. You can focus on your yoga and meditation. You can use art, whether visual or musical, to express yourself. You can take a break to rest your body and mind. You can talk to others about how you're feeling. You can exercise, and so much more. Everyone has different ways of coping with stress. It's a matter of what works for you. Regardless of how you cope, be sure to always keep in mind the importance of managing your stress, for it truly can harm your body. And with that, thank you to Meredith, Mr. Pike, Renell, Anna, and Anne for being a part of our show today, and thank you for listening. I hope you tune in for tomorrow's episode about coping with anxiety. Have a wonderful day.